guys, so Michaela and I are doing our thing again where we both record tags on our own and release them on the same day. So this works out a little bit faster than us doing the same tag at the same time, especially because of the tag that we're doing right now. It works out better if we split them apart because Michaela and I have very, very different tastes in reading. But we're both doing the same tag today, and that is the Intimidating TBR Tag, originally done by Lindsay Ray. The link to that original video will be down there. So, this is a really great tag to be doing right now because Michaela and I have been talking a lot about TBRs and more like our inability to do TBRs, and so this is really just a snapshot for me of the craziness that is my TBR. So the first question is, what is a book that you have been unable to finish? And without a doubt, the answer to that question is Get in Trouble by Kelly Link. I've had this book, it's Taylor's, I've had it since last semester, and I'm supposed to have read it already, and I'm about this far through, which I got that far the day I came back from break, so the Tuesday after spring break, and he needs this back. It's not even funny anymore, it just needs to get done, but I haven't gotten it done yet, and not for lack of trying, just lack of time, honestly. So yeah, this is a collection of short stories, and so it really shouldn't be that hard for me to read this in chunks and get it done, but it is. So yeah, this is like a big deal for me right now, and as soon as I can find the time, this is my priority number one. The next question is, what book haven't you read because you haven't had the time? And my answer to that is Watching the Tree, A Chinese Daughter Reflects on Happiness, Tradition, and Spiritual Wisdom by Adeline Yen Ma. This was a book that I should have already finished for one of my classes, but I missed the last two classes where we talked about this book, so I never finished it. And I just haven't had the time to go and do that back reading. And I need to, because this book is probably really important to a research paper that I'm going to have to write. I don't think I can, make up quotes, so I need to read it. It is autobiographical, that subtitle basically says it all, but I really enjoyed what I did read, the first half of it, but I just haven't really been able to find the time to finish it and still keep up with my own homework right now. So, yeah. The next question is, what is a book that you haven't read because it's a sequel? And without a doubt, the one that has been in my mind most recently is Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. I read the first book in the Grusha series when it first came out. I have a hardcover actually, and yes, this is a paperback, so I'm really happy they don't sit on the shelf next to each other right now. However, that is the problem. The first book in the series that I own is back at my house in hardcover, so I'm not going to rebuy it, but I also don't have it here, and it's been so long since I read the first book in the series that I'm not all that sure what the book's even about at this point. Like, I remember the basic, basis of Russia's mythology, that kind of a thing, but I really don't remember too much about the actual details of the world and the plot. So this just sits on my shelf waiting to be read, and I've honestly thought about reading it, but again, I don't have the first book here, and so that makes it really, really hard for me to finish reading this. This series did even make my top 10 series I need to finish because I really am interested in finishing it. I liked the world, I liked the first book, but just don't have the first book here. Question 4 is, what book haven't you read because it's brand new? And I have one brand new book in my possession that I've had in my possession since February and still haven't read, and that is Glass Sword by Victoria Aveyard. This is the second book in the Red Queen series, and I loved the first book. The first book, The Red Queen, was to me a perfect subverter of tropes. It was interesting. I liked the characters. I thought they did really interesting things with the love story. Don't really want to spoil anything there, but the ending of that first book was just like, oh, I've had so many expectations and they were all broken, and I'm really interested in what's going to happen next. And here it is. Here's what happens next. It's in my hand. It's in hardcover. I pre-ordered it. I got it the day it came out, but I just haven't had the time to read it. And I've been staring at it literally since it came out in February, and I brought it on spring break with me and everything, but here it is, still unread. And I've read some really interesting reviews of this one that I think is maybe why I haven't been as eager to pick it up, because the reviews have been kind of mixed. And while I think I'm going to be interested in this for the same reasons that I was interested in the Red Queen, which is, you know, a different kind of take on the story that I normally expect, I've been not as interested because of some of the more negative reviews that I've read. I will definitely be reading this for sure at some point, but not now. So the next one is, what is a book that you haven't read because you've read a book by the author and you didn't enjoy it? And that is this series by Holly Black. I'm hesitating on giving it like a overarching title because there's two books that connect and one book that's kind of different in the middle, but this is Tithe. This is one of the books in the series. I actually own all three. There's Valiant and Ironside as well. And actually, I bought these all because I was going to a signing with Holly, so all three of them are signed. So cool, right? However, I had just read Black Cat by Holly Black, and while I can't even remember not really liking it or why, I just remember not really liking it. And so these have just been sitting here since, oh gosh, my 18th birthday. I'm 21 now. So the whole series has been sitting there signed, and I just haven't read it because of that one book and my one kind of lackluster feelings toward it. Which sucks. Even just like the byline of these is a modern fairy tale, and that's so important to me. And these books actually just came up in an article I was reading for my thesis, and that made them sound really cool, but I just haven't picked them up. So again, I have all three of them. I just happen to be holding this one, but yeah, just how it shakes. And I'm pretty sure that as my reading has changed, that Holly Black's style is one that I'm gonna fall more and more in love with, but I just haven't given her that second chance yet, even though I really want to. Question 6, what is a book you haven't read because you're just not in the mood? Shh, don't tell Michaela, but that is Fingerprints of You by Kristen Page Madonia. We are supposed to be reviewing this for a joint review later on this month, and this author, Kristen Page Madonia, is actually coming to my school for a festival that I help coordinate in a couple of weeks. So I really want to get this read before she gets here because that's really important to me, and she's the young adult author coming, and that's super cool. But here's the thing. This book is about teen pregnancy, and so you know, mom and her daughter who kind of live without the father in the picture, and then the daughter gets knocked up and she goes on a, you know, life-fulfilling quest to find her father. That is just a story that doesn't interest me as much. I don't like reading those stories. I feel like every single time I read that in YA, I read the same story over and over and over again. I've heard a lot of good things about this book, and it was recommended to me by a professor that I hold in very, very high esteem. So I'm pretty sure that this is not going to be the same book that I've read again. And it's really short too, which is really great, but I'm not in the mood. It's really hard for me to get on board with that particular topic. And so I probably won't be reading Fingerprints of You until the absolute deadline. Question 7, what is a book that you haven't read because it's humongous? Guess what, guys? It's Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. This book is giant. It's going to be my Pop Sugar Challenge pick for a book over 600 pages. And I actually am partway through it. As you can see, I did that over break because I'm really excited about this book. I love Cassandra Clare. I am obsessed with Cassandra Clare. I can't wait to read this book, but I just haven't had the time to really and be able to enjoy the length of this book. I don't have the time to really get there and read it and enjoy it because it is a whole new world and new characters, even if it is only a couple of, you know, years after the event of the Mortal Instruments. And I want to give this book what it deserves. And right now I don't have the time for that. And while it really, really is depressing me, and I keep it on my bedside table just in case I change my mind, it's just too big for me to tackle right now with all of the stuff that I have going on. Question 8, what is a book that you haven't read because it was a cover by, but then it turned out to have poor reviews? And that is, for me, Black City by Elizabeth Richards. I've had this, obviously, since about the time it came out. And, I mean, look at that cover. That cover is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. But So when Michaela and I were rooming together freshman year, she actually borrowed this book and reviewed it on my blog. And her review was not necessarily the greatest thing, and Michaela may not know this, but I actually really respect her opinion on books and things. So after that, I really just wasn't as interested in picking this up. So again, I love looking at it. It's so pretty. But at this point, I can't even tell you what it's about anymore. I just remember that Michaela didn't like it, and, well, or Michaela wasn't, thrilled by it. And yeah, can't bring myself to read it since Michaela's already told me it's not that great, and I could be reading other things, so sorry, cover. So question 9 is really hard for me, and that is, what is the most intimidating book on your TBR? And for ease of doing this video, I kept this TBR to the books I physically have in my apartment right now and picked from that selection. I also have like a giant amount of them on my Kindle that I could have entered into this and stuff like that, but I didn't. And so question 9 is, what's the most intimidating book? And I'm not usually intimidated by books. Like, I think of books as an adventure, and maybe classics could fall under that category, but I'm not intimidated by them as much as I'm usually bored by them. So when I was looking at the books on my shelf, one of them stuck out at me, and that is Fudoki by Kiz Johnson. I've had this book for a really long time. I actually took a writing class from Kiz in 2012, I think, and that's when I picked this up. And I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm intimidated by it, but I also know the caliber of writing that is held within these pages. And so while I really want to read it, I've not been able to get to it since I bought it, because I just know that it's going to ask so much of me as a reader, and that it's going to be very beautiful and very involved literary prose. And I do a lot of that kind of reading in college. So when I look at my shelf and I know that that's what I'm going to get out of a book, I don't necessarily go for it. And I think in terms of most intimidating, I'm picking this one just because of how long I've had it and how long I've had that thought of just like, wow, that book is going to be a deep and involved process that I don't want to go into right now. So yeah, nothing absolutely against Kiz or this book. I'm really sorry that I haven't read it, because I mean, it's just everything that is up my alley, but I just haven't gotten there yet. And so in terms of books that I have here, I think that that's the most apt response to the most intimidating book that I have right now. The 10th question of this is to tag people to do this tag. And I'm going to let Michaela take care of tagging anybody. I don't want to double tag. So I'm just going to cut this off and say that if you want to do this tag and you're interested, go ahead and tag yourself, say that we did it, that's fine. And don't forget to check out Michaela's version of this tag, which will showcase 9 other really interesting books that she hasn't been able to get to yet. So thanks for watching, guys, and please feel free down in the comments to tell me if you've read any of these books, if I should move them up or down on my TBR, if you think they deserve to stay on my TBR. Let me know. I've mentioned some books that I haven't gotten to because of things that I've heard about them, stuff like that. So, prove me wrong, prove me right. Talk to me down in the comments. Thanks, guys. Bye.